Previously on Animaniacs.
Yakko, you can't go this alone. It's insane, I tell you. Insane!
Usually that's to my advantage.
Where do you go, Waggle?
I don't know, but it's big and it's headed straight for us.
No, you can't do a stupid recap gag. It'll ruin the podcast's credibility. I don't care.
Oh my.
I don't think I love you anymore. I don't know if I ever loved you. Oh, Otto, I'm so disappointed.
It's gotten to the blood.
Don't worry, kid. I'm gonna hit a ball right out of the park just for you.
Gee, that'd be great, babe.
Oh my.
I think we're losing altitude.
Scratchy, look out!
Yeah!
I hereby sentence you to life in prison.
Looks like there's only one way to settle this, gentlemen. We're going to have to play a game of Fantastic Four. So Ant-Man is not out in Australia yet, so I've had to kind of keep the excitement of new things going. I've had to come up with a new game to play on the podcast, a bit of a thought experiment game. I'm calling it Fantastic Four, and basically the way this is going to work is I'm going to have Bob and Scott each pitch me 4 ideas for the future of, or just for the game generally. They can kind of retroactively change any things. They're basically Thanos in this instance. They can alter the reality of the game's past, present, or future. And what we're going to do is at the end of it, we're going to work out who the winner is. So this is the first running. So like anything for the first time, it's probably going to be a bit chaotic and it's not going to reach its full potential, but I'm sure we're going to have a lot of fun with it. I'm sure everyone else who follows on and plays this game after you guys is going to kind of building on the groundwork you guys set here. So, okay. So Bob, do you want to go ahead and pitch me your first idea?
Okay. So my first idea, I don't know how this relates to, like going into the past or into the future. I guess it could be for both, but I would like them to flesh out a lot more the alter ego mechanic, the alter ego side. I want to feel like when I go into alter ego, or if I have to go into alter ego, that I'm getting a reinforcement of who this character is when I'm playing it. I think Obligations kind of do that to a good degree. But I think the alter ego element of the game is missing a little bit of that character, story, and theme that I think could be injected into the game. And that's my first idea.
Yeah, Scott, how do you feel about that one?
That's interesting. It is certainly something I've thought about in the past. The alter ego side of the hero cards are something you flip to when you have to and as little as possible. And it is a shame that there's not more reason to be on that side, and it's some of the abilities and on the alter ego sides are just they don't inject very much character into the heroes. I think it's a very good idea, and I know it's something that Richard Hamrado has talked about a lot about the game. He feels the same way as Bob, that there needs to be more done with that aspect of the game. Great idea, Bob.
Yeah, is that how we're thinking that'll be executed with just better or more impactful alter ego abilities?
How do I think it would be executed? Not really sure. I think there's probably some interesting things that they could do by either introducing a new card type, maybe, or having like maybe a series of side schemes that kind of put the main scheme on hold, and maybe your alter ego has to accomplish some objective that's a little more, as I said, a little more, that brings the character out a little bit more, who they are and what they have to deal with in their alter ego. And then let's say if that card, like a side scheme, did gather all that threat, then by the end of dealing with it, maybe some amount of threat does go on the main scheme. So if you did well enough, you would be okay. But if you did badly taking care of your alter ego stuff, maybe that's worse off for you.
So Scott, let's see what you've got for your first pitch.
Okay, something I would like to see them do at some point in the future is something similar to the Return to boxes from the Arkham LCG. So taking an existing villain, giving it new modular sets, maybe even a new set of villain cards and the villain identity cards. In part, they could make those scenarios more difficult because some of them, as we know, are very easy. They could also bring in new aspects of the game, introduce stuff that they've used elsewhere into older villain sets and that kind of thing, just to increase the replayability of some of the scenarios, because I think it is not as high as it could be.
Yeah, excellent. How do you feel about that, Bob?
How do I feel about that? It's funny because when I played Arkham and they brought out the Return to sets, and this was before Marvel Champions existed, I noticed that they had like these replacement cards for the encounter deck. Like I think you'll have, like, in the core set, you'll have a set of cards, like a 4 through 6 of cards with the title like Grasping Hands. And then in the Return to set for the core set, you'll have another set of cards that has a different title but kind of the same motif. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, hey, it would be cool if I can take just random number of these two different sets and kind of make my own encounter set. And then Marvel Champions came out, and what do they have? They have modular encounter sets, so you could just pick and even mix and match whatever you want to throw in the encounter deck in the deck. So I think I like the idea of modulars more. I don't mean to shoot down your idea, Scott, but I don't know that I personally like the Return to model, I guess.
I really like both of those ideas. As you mentioned, Bob, the modular sets does add a level of that kind of thing to the encounter set specifically. I assume that you, Scott, you were talking specifically relevant to encounter sets, or are you talking for both the heroes as well?
I was talking specifically about the villains and the encounter set. And yeah, I think with Marvel Champions, it would be it'd be better to take a slightly different approach to the idea than they have done with the Arkham Return to boxes. And yeah, I like Bob's idea more of giving you modular set options. But yeah, I think anything like that, it could be a mixture of new modular sets that you can use to mix in with other existing modular sets, and possibly also some replacement cards. I think there's plenty of scope in there for, particularly with Champions, of approaching that idea in slightly different ways.
So yeah, these are both fantastic ideas, and I think this one is a very, very hard one to make a decision on. I'm I'm going to give the point to Bob, just because the alter ego at this point feels like it doesn't do much gameplay wise. It feels very, very neglected. Though the idea of having, I do love Scott's point about being able to revisit say for instance, as an example, Rhino, being able to go back and offer Rhino some maybe some treacheries or some attachments that give him piercing. That is something that those kind of things will, are definitely going to be able to kind of retroactively add flavor and also kind of maybe adjust the difficulty and balance of some of the earlier modular sets. I mean, if Rhino, some of his attacks should have piercing, because if you're getting gored with a Rhino horn, you're not exactly able to necessarily tough that out. But I think just because of the how needed the boost is to alter egos and how much their importance should be amped up a bit, I'm going to give him the point on this one. So, Bob, did you want to go through your second pitch?
Second pitch. Sure. I don't. This one might be controversial. I don't.
Oh, we like that.
So, like organized play. I think recently there was some kind of what sounded to me like bad news about organized play. This Marvel Champions was the first game I was intent on playing with other people. I went out to my local game shop and I played about 2 games of Champions with several people, and I intended to do that more often and get that community going locally. But then COVID happened and I definitely couldn't go out anymore. So I don't know how they would do it under the circumstances of the pandemic. I feel like print and play stuff might be the way to go, but I don't have a lot of experience playing organized play like events. But I wish that they would give organized play like a Marvel superhero flavor that is unique to the theme here, because there's tons of theme here. There's tons of character and story that they could play with, and incorporate that into organized play.
What do you think about that one, Scott? The adding a bit of flavor to the organized play experience?
Yeah, I fully agree with Bob. I mean, what organized play stuff we've had so far. I mean, even if you take COVID out of the picture, and if the OP stuff had released when it was meant to, it's just very, I don't want to use the word weak, but it is very weak. It's a handful of promo cards and a mat, and there's no story that goes with it. There's nothing for the stores to sort of hang their event around, other than just saying, come and play and we'll give you these promo cards. And yeah, it is a shame that they're not doing more with the game and promoting the community aspects of the game.
Okay, I'm gonna actually kind of help round that out a bit more and throw a pitch back at you guys. Yeah. So that we take Bob's idea and as sweet as the full art heroes and all that are, we scrap those. We scrap the full art aspect cards, and we do a bit of a Gen Con. So maybe quarterly, or even if it's every 6 months or so, they send out to stores a villain with so you get the 3 villain stages, a couple of 1 or 2 or 3, however many main scheme cards with them, and maybe a 10 or 15 card modular set. They put that in with the expert and the standard sets, and maybe 1 or 2 of the existing modular sets, and have a thematic mission that players initially have to play through down at their stores. So they could even theme it. So they could have, like, as an example, for maybe if the quarter is the end of the year quarter, you can have a scenario where a villain essentially tries to steal Christmas, And so the players have to rock up to the store. The store's got the copy of the encounter deck or the special encounter set that they've sent out, and they play through it in 2, 3, 4 player games like that. And so you can even have the year's quarterly releases like that line up so that there's a bit of a running thematic story theme through it. How do you feel about that execution? So
like a seasonal event type of thing?
Yeah, it could be seasonal. It could be, themed around a holiday or a particular event in that quarter or whenever it's releasing, or it could be relevant to they could say put out a villain relevant to the newest Disney Plus show and newest MCU movie. So they might, once Black Widow eventually hits cinemas, they might do a Taskmaster themed, a revision of the Taskmaster set. Maybe it uses a bit more photorealistic art or some stills. Does that make sense? So they basically scrap the alt art heroes and alt art events, and they produce a Gen Con style encounter set that they make available initially available through the OP program to the stores. Mm. And then once it's done, the stores can award those sets as they see fit, maybe even a prize for attending the events, and then release it through their online store down the line, similar to how they've done that with special scenario sets with the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I think that would be fun. I particularly like the idea of it coinciding with Marvel film and television releases, because I think that would produce a lot more, hype and excitement. I think that would be a good route to go in. I think further out, once we have Avengers now, we have one champion, and then we're about to have Guardians. Further out, I'd like to see like a league play where you can kind of pick your faction, and then as a group, and see how one compares to the other in terms of I guess some kind of competitive champions versus Avengers taking on specific villains.
Scott, do you want to hit us with your second pitch?
When I sort of noted this down earlier today, I wasn't thinking of OP, but I am actually going to riff off Bob's suggestion, and something I would like to see is a mini campaign mode where you take 3 different villains. You start with the stage 1 version of one of them, and then you fight him, defeat him, then you move on to the stage 2 version of your second villain, and then eventually the stage 3 of the third villain. And that would be the kind of thing that would work well in an OP setting, where they could give you, say, 3 modular sets that you start with the first one in the deck, and it's sort of themed around the first villain that you're meant to use. And then when you go on to the second stage, you then shuffle in the second modular set, and that's more themed around the second one, and so on. You could have fairly simple rules around how you actually progress through that. And I think, again, similar to my first idea, it would give you new ways of playing the old villains that in interesting ways. And as I said, I wasn't thinking of it like this earlier, but it's the kind of thing that would work really well in a organized play setting or a Gen Con or something like that.
What do you think about that, Bob?
I actually really, really like that idea, because it seems to use the modular sets too, which are pretty popular among players. So it sounded like you said you're shuffling in a new modular set once you move past one stage of the villain?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that sounds fun. And again, because it uses the modular sets, it makes sense. You could even have maybe exclusive modular sets. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I know some people shun away from exclusivity if it's not available to everybody, but it sounds fun. It sounds interesting. I like it.
I think relevant to both ideas. I hate to keep harping on it, but I like the Lord of the Rings model, where they have got, I think there's a number of basically encounter sets you get with Lord of the Rings that started out as exclusives that they would release and make available at Gen Con, and people could kind of like try them out for the first time at Gen Con, and they were kind of, those encounter sets were self-contained stories, so they didn't take away from, well, they didn't, not having them didn't take away from the larger Lord of the Rings narrative arc that they'd kind of sewn through the game. But what they'd then do is then after the event itself, they made it available via either print on demand or just selling it as a prepackaged encounter set through their store. So there wasn't that that kind of gatekeeping that kind of comes from having something be released and only available to attendees of a specific event, because not everyone can get everywhere. But I guess the beauty of it was the fact that there was that delay in it coming out. There was that reward for actually making the effort to get to an event, because you had it kind of essentially 2 or 3 months available, 2 or 3 months before other players, or you were able to get a printed version rather than people having to kind of organize to print it themselves. So yeah, I think I've got to give it to Scott here, because I think the beauty of having that kind of stage 1 villain, stage 2 villain, stage 3 villain is I think it aids deck building in terms of you have to make your decks more well-rounded, or have to balance how many cards and how many slots you're dedicating to being able to attack a villain's weak point, or shoring up your own weaknesses. I think it does feel fairly thematic, rather than having to defeat a villain twice, like I killed you and then he gets up and you got to kill him again, like moving on to a new villain that's trying to stand in your way. So I'm going to give that point to him. So in the interest of fairness, I'm going to get Scott to go with his third pitch first.
Okay, for this one, I'm hoping you are an X-Men fan, because I think it's obvious that we are going to get the X-Men at some point. What I would like them to do with it is to release a big box. I think there are so many characters that either are or have been part of the X-Men that it would be really good to start the X-Men cycle with even maybe a new core set that was X-Men themed, or something more like the story boxes, but with maybe 4 heroes instead of just the 2, and maybe 3 villains. And yeah, so an X-Men big box is my proposal.
So when we say big, we're talking core set level big.
I think so. Yeah, if not the size of the core set, then somewhere between the story boxes and the core set.
Bob, how would you attack the introduction of the X-Men?
How would I do it?
Do you think that's or do you see FFG going with the idea of almost like a second core set almost? Something to that size.
That would be a good idea. Not a second core set in the sense that you would need to buy it to do everything else that comes after. But yeah, like just kind of a mirror of the core set with the X-Men. I think that would be a good idea. I think that is how they're probably going to do it. But we'll see in 2025, I think.
Yeah, I think I really like this idea, because I think that given everything we've heard so far, the X-Men is something that they're either having difficulties with in regards to the Disney side of things, in terms of they're wanting more of the focus on the Avengers and the wider MCU, because it ties into to upcoming media, or maybe because even they've just designed for that in the next 2 years. But it's going to be a while before we get X-Men. That I don't think that we're going to see any of them anytime soon. So I think that this is going to be. I would be very surprised if this isn't what happens, because I think by the time we do see the X-Men, it'll help for the game to have that fresh big influx of of content, including probably an updated RRG for that time as well. Like, so another large rule book that maybe collects some of the responses that they've already received. I really like this. Yeah, I think that if it doesn't happen, we're going to have to riot.
Yeah, I'm hoping we don't have to wait for the X-Men to get RRG version 1.4.
Oh.
Yeah, I think by the time the rule book is solid, the game will only be accessible to humanoid androids. So awesome. So Bob, I'm going to check out your third pitch now, if we can.
Third pitch. Okay. Kind of running out of ideas. I say this kind of tongue in cheek, but not really. So my idea is stop printing leadership cards.
I love this.
There's it doesn't need a buff. It doesn't need another ally. I went on TTS and I looked at the differently titled blue cards, compared them to the differently titled basic cards, and I think there was more leadership cards. We justice for justice. Print some justice cards, please. That's my pitch.
Well, yeah, I think that's a great pitch, but maybe it's in the wrong game. I think if you speak to the average Magic the Gathering player and told them that you'd like the company to stop printing blue cards, they'd probably agree with you. Like in a pinch, that's definitely something that needed to happen. So stop printing leadership cards. You know what? And I think that leadership, if they literally stop the presses right now, and
it's fine, right?
Yeah, I think leadership would be good for another couple of years if they stopped producing them right away. I mean, we'd need to get a welfare check on Kennedy Hawk, but other than that, I think the game would be okay. And thank you for making me laugh. I love that. I hope that in future these pitches get more and more ridiculous like that. So I'm going to give this one to the X-Men core set box. Although thanks for providing the first great comedic moment of this game. I love that. Stop printing leadership cards. Scott, you got anything to add to that?
No. No, there isn't anything else to say. Yeah. Leadership is already too good. It just I suppose they could continue printing leadership cards, just don't make them so good.
Yeah, it feels like that. I think where are we at the moment with it? I think Justice is is it 1.5 packs behind in terms of aspect cards?
Yeah. It's lagging by about, I think, 10 plus cards. But I know that they do desperately need more allies, more interesting allies.
For me as a solo player, it does feel a bit like that because I think one of the major new allies was the Spider-Man, which just is in solo context, he's kind of almost worse than Jessica Jones. You're probably better off with Jessica Jones than the big Spider-Man. So it does feel like I've had the same few faces rotating through for the past 6 to 8 months. Yeah,
I built a Ant-Man Justice deck recently, and I was just going through the cards, and it felt like I didn't have as many options as I did when I built him up leadership. Obviously, because he had leadership, a bunch of leadership cards, or protection. Even protection feels in a good spot right now, but Justice is lacking just a little bit.
Yeah, I think I'm probably guilty of a few times building Justice decks and throwing in Quake just because I feel like I need an extra ally to block with occasionally, rather than actually having to go through and pick out who I think is going to be the best, best ally for the situation. It's more just a case of I can play this with Power of Justice, and she's a thing. Like I can block with it. It doesn't feel like it lends itself well to good deck building in terms of it doesn't really leave you too many decisions to make. Awesome. So Scott, have you got pitch number 4 for us?
I do, and I have saved my best idea till last, I think. So given the almost universal love for the Ant-Man and Wasp hero cards, I would like to see in the future cards where you're not only having to open them up and flip them over, but cards that actually change size. So maybe rubberized or elastic cards, and it would be perfect for heroes like, we've already got Ms. Marvel, but it would have been perfect for her, or Mr. Fantastic, that kind of character where they've got body morphing abilities.
Did you say rubberized cards?
Yes, rubberized or elastic.
That would be so fun.
Let's take that to, let's have some, because this genuinely made me laugh. Let's take that to some fun or ridiculous extremes. So what else do we think we can do? Like, they print the cards made out of bubble gum or something like that. Like, I mean, like is folding a card once not enough? Do we kind of, origami? Is there any heroes that would lend themselves well to like being like an origami card?
I think Absorbing Man should be printed on a sponge. I think that would be. And they could probably sneak that into organized play as well, an exclusive, the sponge absorbing. But I love this idea. Why not play with the medium a bit more, especially in organized play? That would be a great place to have like these funky experimental versions of these cards.
Yeah, I could see Colossus being printed on tin plate.
Yes.
Or just have Emma Frost made out of like 24 karat diamond. And just it's gatekeeping, but just find out whether players are willing to lay down $32,000 US for the Emma Frost pack. It's Magic the Gathering has been doing that a lot lately, trying to print exclusive stuff and see how much money they can extract from people. So it's only a matter of time before we get there, to be honest. I love this. I think it's going to be interesting to see how the different cards change from whether they do try any more different form factor ideas. So rubberized and elastic or form changing cards. I like that. I think that's great. And I hope that we going forward, when I play this game again in future, that we do get like such wondrous and fantastic pictures like this. It's great. Okay, Bob. So that's going to be a hard one to follow, but hit us up with number 4.
No, I have to say, in regard to Scott's idea, it does sound really fun, and it reminds me of I don't know how old you guys are, but I'm ancient, so I grew up in the 90s, and there was tons of these like tinfoil covered comic books and holographic covered comic books, and I definitely hope to see things like that in this game with hero cards and other cards. That would be fun. But best for last. So I was kind of running out of ideas. So my last idea is just that the developers, Caleb and Boggs, whenever they have rules update, rules change, or whenever they feel like they need to talk about some rules or explain something, clarify anything, that they come onto our show, The Card Text, and talk about it, because we want to help with that. We want to be the place that they go when there's like an RRG update or anything they want to communicate to the audience. I think that would be a good idea.
So basically it becomes RRG by committee.
RRG by committee?
Yeah, in terms of the all the rules decision are made with a democratic vote involving yourself, the developers, and a small council of.
I don't want to decide on any rules. No, I just want them to like whenever there's a rules update. Sometimes there's still questions. Like they'll update some entry, and people will still ask, "Oh, okay," or maybe there's something missing. So if we see that and we read it, and they come on the card text, they can talk about, like, we can ask them questions directly once that update has been put out so that whatever perhaps didn't get clarified could be addressed like immediately when it's published. I just think that would be fun. But again, I was running out of ideas, so it's kind of more self-serving.
No, I really, really like that. But I'm going to again pitch back another counter pitch to you for this.
Right.
It's your idea, except it's mandatory that at least one of you is physically there in person with them on the recording, so you can roll up a newspaper and hit them with them. If something has just been poorly done or is just ridiculous, you can kind of just whack them like you would a naughty dog or a naughty child. I think that would have me more on board if you could just kind of give them a whack with a roll-up magazine or something.
I think like everybody that hates the defense rework would love that. Yeah, I don't believe in corporal punishment, but I could see a lot of people going for that idea.
Yeah, I definitely not a fan of it either, but I think for the defense rulings, we all kind of want to give them a bit of a metaphorical whack for it.
As Stephen from I think Team Covenant said, why would you ever do that?
Yeah, it's a bit of a head scratcher. And expanding that pitch just a little bit further, how would you guys actually feel? I mean, I know I initially over kind of interpreted what you were saying, but how would you feel the game? How do you feel a rules committee would work? There's games like Magic the Gathering where for specific formats they do have committees of players external to the company itself that kind of work as the kind of ruling council almost for those different rules. Do you think that there'd be any benefit in inviting some of the player base and members of the community, maybe content creators like yourselves, to kind of be involved in regards to some of the rules decisions and having your opinions count towards how things are handled?
Well, I think that the rules committees that exist for like Magic the Gathering and things like that exists primarily because it's such a competitive game. It's one person against another person, and all the things that come with competition, including prizes, etc. So it's good to have that for those games. For a game like Arkham or Marvel Champions, people that might be called rules gurus are always going to be around. They exist as kind of a paratextual source of information for that game. And I think it happens probably more often in the modern age, where you can go to like forums or Discord, places where there are people that exist as kind of a committee, more or less, that read the rules, interpret them the best they can, and relay as much accurate information as they can. I think it does exist to some degree already.
Scott, do you have anything to add to that idea?
Going back to Bob's actual pitch, I think, again, it's one of those things that I think is a very good idea, and it is something that FFG clearly are able to do because in the Arkham LCG community, I think it's the Mythos Busters podcast, they have Matt Newman on pretty much once a cycle, and he talks about not just the storyline and that kind of thing, but also they ask him rules and card interaction questions. And so it's clear that it's not something that's being stopped at the sort of FFG management level. So yeah, I think it would be very beneficial to the community as a whole, and obviously to us as a podcast, to be able to have the designers on sort of every so often, even, if it was once a quarter or even just 6 months, to not just be grilled by us about the rules, but talk about the game in general. Yeah, I mean, I've got all sorts of questions about how the game is actually designed and developed, and things like, do they actually have a rules committee, or is there like a rules document that goes into more detail than we have in the RRG and that kind of thing. And then, yeah, it would be great to be able to do that.
So I'm gonna weigh in on these two pitches now. As much as I love Scott's pitch and his suggestion that we'd be able to stretch our fun by literally stretching cards and having all kinds of wacky card shenanigans going on. I think that his pitch is. I think he might be a bit of a shill for the storage and accessories company. I think that this is coming from a place of he's on the take. He's getting paid to try and popularize these ideas. So we have to pay out for storage solutions for our cards made of eraser or bubblegum or rubber or made out of elastic. I think that the different storage and solutions that are going to have to come are going to add financial expense to the game and just going to be a nightmare as far as good luck trying to find a box that's going to fit, your Mr. Fantastic that's been stretched out and frozen. And so I think that I'm going to have to give it to Bob just due to the fact that Scott might be trying to sell us some wacky advanced storage solutions like the Ant-Man.
Scott does have his own dividers, right, Scott? You were hoping to expand, but they got...
I do, yeah.
Oh, well, if the cards are like 3 times the size and he has to produce 3 times the materials to get the dividers to fit them, he stands to profit. So they're both a little bit self-serving.
I will point out that my dividers are available free on BGG. I don't charge for them or anything.
Is it a gateway drug? Just gets them hooked in and tracks up the price. We'll see. I do genuinely like the idea of the designers coming on the card text and actually being able to kind of explain. I think a big thing that'll go a big way towards solving these issues is the designers being able to have that dialogue with some of the rules gurus in the community about the intent of cards design as well. Because I think having that insight into the intent, how this is how this card's designed, this is how it's worded, this is the intent of the card, will obviously lend itself time and time again to other cards made in a similar vein. So I think that having the designers talk with you guys, and you guys are very much the rules gurus that the community looks to and leans on times and times again. So the card text is definitely where they'd go if they were going to make themselves available in this context. I genuinely think that would go a long way towards solving rules issues, both for the current cards, but also with things in the future, because we have those precedents to refer back to. So the unfortunate downside of naming this game the Fantastic Four is that it involves 4 pitches, so there can actually be ties. So the most creative member of the Cartex podcast is all of them, apparently. We've got a 2-all tie. Something I should have said at the start of the podcast was that I pitched this game to these guys with a very, very, very loose rule book, and they only had 24 or 36 odd hours to come up with these pitches. And I think they've both done incredibly well in such a short span of time to come up with such wonderful pitches. How did you guys find the game? Did you have some fun with it?
Yeah, it was interesting coming up with just four ideas. As I said, I was kind of running out of ideas, but I liked thinking about how the game could evolve and just be different in a way that would just make it even more fun, even more clear to understand.
Yeah, I agree with that. It was a lot of fun, and I think with other guests in the future, you're going to get quite varied ideas.
Mm.
I definitely hope that they take your both your lead, Scott, and yours as well, Bob, in terms of going very, very far-fetched and wacky with it. I hope they kind of really take this game to Christmas land and come up with some more crazy stuff, like just wiping out the leadership gene pool, or printing cards on rocks and stuff.
Yeah, and if it all goes south, if they do that and the community absolutely hates it, just blame me. It's usually my fault.
Oh. I think that there's a few players out there who have their other aspects in in non-leadership aspects who would be okay with the leadership getting a bit of a freeze on its returns for a hot minute or two. So thank you guys very, very much for playing and providing us the first couple of comedic moments of the game. And I'm sure, as I said, that the future contestants will be building on your groundwork for both the practical and the highly impractical. It's as we record this in America. Sorry, just as we record this, I'm in Australia, but it's currently American Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving, Bob. Scott and Bob, just did you want to leave us with one thing you're thankful for in regards to Marvel Champions?
I don't think Scott, you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, right?
I don't. No.
Okay. So that would just be here. What am I thankful for? I mean, just thankful that the community is great. I think I've been in other communities for other games, and this one kind of feels like the right place for me, and I seem to be drawn to the game in a lot of ways. So much so that I made content for it and was willing to travel to meet other people for games. So just for the game overall and the people I got to meet through it, I'm very thankful for.
So Scott's in the UK and doesn't celebrate Thanksgiving like myself in Australia. Basically, just for Scott's benefit, I think one of the Thanksgiving traditions is that before eating, people tend to give thanks for something that they're thankful for, or many things they're thankful for in their life. Is aside from community, which I think Bob speaks for a lot of us about. Is there anything else in particular in the game that you're thankful for so far?
To be honest, I was going to say pretty much the same thing as Bob. The community is just fantastic. It's not like any other card game community, apart from maybe the Arkham LCG community. It seems that cooperative card games seem to attract a type of person that the more competitive card games don't attract. And I don't have anything other to add to that, really. The community is fantastic. I would just echo everything Bob said.
Yeah, it's funny how when you remove the competitive aspect and the prize money, how suddenly everyone's a lot more civil, and people are a bit more focused on making friends. So yeah, I definitely appreciate the community. For myself, I'm thankful that aside from the community, I'm also very thankful that I get to have wonderful guests on the show and speak to wonderful folks from all around the world like yourselves, Bob and Scott. So thank you very, very much for joining us today. You've been a wonderful guest to have on. Just before you go, is there anything you'd like to plug?
Just the podcast, the Card Text podcast. You can find us on Marvel Champions Monthly, their website. I don't know if I can give you a link. I don't have the link memorized, but we usually post updates on videos and podcasts that we do on Twitter, at the Card Text. And we also have Theorel created a kind of an interactive timing sheet that might be interesting for people to use if they have trouble with timing. I think that's it. I don't have any other plugs.
Scott, did you have anything to plug?
I mean, I could plug my YouTube channel, but yeah, I think the Card Text podcast is kind of more important for the audience of your own podcast. And the Marvel Champions Monthly website, it's mcm-podcast.com. And you'll find currently one article on there by myself looking at card sleeves. I possibly might write some more on there, and Kennedy Hawk and the team over there are excellent, and I personally am very grateful to them for giving us a platform, because I don't think our podcast would happen without them. Beautiful.
And I'll for the listeners, you'll be able to find links to the Cartex Twitter, the Scott's YouTube channel, the Marvel Champions Monthly site, and everything. Like, I'll make sure that that's all well and truly spammed in the description below. So definitely, as always, I recommend going and checking out the guys and the fine work they do. Also, I'll try and get a link in there for the Marvel Champions Discord, and you can usually find them hanging out in the rules discussion area. If you do have a rules question that doesn't have that any kind of clarity attached to it, hit them up in there, and they're generally very good at answering quickly. If not, there's always someone about that has a very good grasp of your situation. So thank you very much once again for joining us today, gentlemen. It's been lovely having you on, and yeah, hopefully we can speak to you again further down the line once we have an updated RRG.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. It was nice to do this show.
Yeah, thanks. It's been good.